Hey guys, it's time for chapter 23 today. Okay, so yesterday, the last thing was they were wondering what do these people want from them and how can we find out before it's too late. All right, so chapter 23 today. All right, for the next week, practically every day, one of them had a brainstorm. On Monday, Catherine thought of actually walking or riding their bikes to visit every single kid in Liston they remembered being on their list. But they couldn't remember very many street names, and the ones they remembered turned out to be way over on the other side of the highway, too far away. On Tuesday, Jonah thought of calling other Duprees to ask them if they knew Angela, and if so, if she was all right. JB and E, remember JB was janitor boy and E was enemy, already know that we know Angela, he argued with Chip and Catherine. They saw us talking to her. What could it hurt if they find out if we're looking for her again? His arguments didn't matter. The only Dupree he could find from the directory assistants had just moved from Louisiana and had never heard of Angela. On Wednesday, Chip said, "That's it. I'm calling Daniela McCarthy back. I don't care who hears me." But her phone rang and rang and rang, and then a computerized message clicked on. "This phone has been disconnected." There was no other number given. Ugh. Chip kicked his desk chair and sent it spiraling across the basement floor. They probably canceled their landline and went down to just cell phones during the move. That's what we did. Oh, why didn't I call her back last week? He pounded his fist on the desk. On Thursday, Catherine thought of riding their bikes slowly down Robin Eggs Lane, looking for sale or sold signs, if they got really lucky, moving vans. They did find a McCoy Realty sign stuck in the yard at 1873, which sounded right to Jonah and Chip, but when they knocked at the door, the sound echoed vacantly. All the windows were covered with blinds, so they couldn't see in. A woman stepped out on the porch across the street. "Nobody's going to buy your band's candy or raffle tickets or whatever you're trying to sell there," she said. "That house has been empty for months. And while we're at it, I don't want to buy anything either." "Oh, we're not selling anything," Catherine said quickly. Jonah jabbed his elbow into her ribs because what if the woman jumped to a worse conclusion? What if she thought they were planning to break in? Catherine ignored him. "We're just from middle school, the middle school welcome wagon," she said. "We had information that a 13-year-old girl was moving in here, and we came to make sure that she feels comfortable in Liston. Do we have our dates wrong? Do you know when the McCarthys are moving in?" "Well, I wouldn't know anything about that," the woman said. "I do seem to remember hearing something about the paperwork on that house being messed up, delaying everything. But of course, it's none of my business." She gave them a sharp look. "Or yours." Friday afternoon, Jonah shoved aside his math homework and wrote on a clean sheet of paper. "JB, we could use a little help here. Hints, clues. Can't you tell us anything?" Then he tore the paper into pieces and threw it in the trash can beside his desk because how would JB know that they called him JB? And what if E found the note instead? It was a good thing they destroyed the evidence so quickly because a few moments later his mom poked her head in his door. "Jonah, I didn't want to bring this up in front of Catherine, but we've got this flyer in the mail today," and she held out a glossy sheet of paper. Halfway across the room, Jonah could read the title. "Adoptees on the Cusp of Their Teen Years, a Conference for Adolescents and Their Parents." "It's part of a series put on by the County Department of Social Services," she said. "This conference is just for families in Liston and Clarksville and Upper Tyson, so it probably wouldn't be a huge crowd. You've just been acting so disturbed lately, ever since we met with Mr. Reardon." "Not that I blame you. I was disturbed by that man too. But even before that, you were asking questions about your adoption. All the books say the teen years are when a lot of adoptees begin struggling with their identities. I think we should go to this, you and Dad and me." "Liston and Clarksville and Upper Tyson," Jonah thought. "Perfect." "Okay," Jonah said, trying very hard to hide his eagerness. He needed to sound reluctant, put upon, maybe even still disturbed. He tried to sound as if something new had just occurred to him, as if he didn't care much. "Oh, could we make a copy of that?" asked Chip. "And his parents would want to go too." I think Chip and his parents would want to go too. All right, that was short. We'll do chapter 24. "What if it's a trap?" Catherine asked. "How could it be a trap?" Jonah asked. "It's sponsored by the county." The two of them were rather listless, playing basketball in the driveway. Mom had shooed them outside. Go, go, get some fresh air. You both seem so mopey lately. I don't think you're getting enough exercise. So they were standing under the hoop, but they kept forgetting to bounce the ball to shoot it. Chip was at a dentist appointment, so they hadn't been able to share the news about the conference with him yet. The county, Catherine snorted, giving the ball a hard shove towards Chip. Yeah, and we got the list survivors and witnesses from the FBI, which is also from the government. How do you know that E didn't set this whole thing up? How do you know that the government's not involved in everything, Jonah thought. How do we know that they didn't help E tap our phones? How do we know that the time travelers, JB or E or both of them, can't manipulate the government however they want to? How do we know that anything's safe? He didn't care anymore. He was going to the conference no matter what. He was sick of feeling this way. What he said to Catherine was, I went back and I looked at the county website. The conference has been on that schedule for more than a year. It'd be hard to set that up as a trap. The county website? Catherine's eyes bugged out a little. So you left a trail on your computer? Don't worry. I went back in and cleared the browsing history, Jonah said. A kid at school showed me how to do that. He shot the ball with exaggerated swagger, false confidence. The ball sailed through the hoop, but Jonah had that feeling that it could easily, just as easily bounce off. Just as the conference could be a trap. I don't like it, Catherine said, grabbing the rebound. It just seems too convenient. That's it, for Liston and Clarksville and Upper Tyson, and those are the same places where all the kids on the survivors list moved. But it will be a perfect opportunity to talk to some of the kids from the list. I'm sure at least some of them will be there. You do remember the names, don't you, Jonah? Said. Sure, Catherine said. Andrea Crawwell, Haley Rivers, Michael Kostoff. She began bouncing the ball in time with the names. Sarah Pachuti, Josh Hart, Rusty Duvall, Anthony Solbers, and the ball landed on her foot and began rolling down the driveway. She waited while Jonah chased the ball out into the street. Chip probably remembers the other names, or we'd remember them if we heard them. Wait a minute, Jonah said, running back. He bounced the ball to Catherine, a little harder than necessary. What do you mean, we? Catherine took a shot. The ball swished cleanly through the net. She didn't even look surprised. I mean, I'm going too, of course, she said, grabbing her own rebound and holding on to it. You and Chip will have to pretend to be paying attention, too. What are some of these sessions called? Identity issues for teen adoption or whatever? So you'll need me there to get a chance to talk to y'all, to the other kids. Jonah didn't want to admit it, but what she said made sense. How are we going to explain this to Mom and Dad? Easy, Catherine said. She bounced the ball without looking at it. You tell them you want me to come. Jonah tried to steal the ball from her, but she saw him coming and jerked it out of reach. Now how am I going to get them to believe that? Jonah asked. You'll figure out something, Catherine said, and she smiled sweetly. That librarian thought you were a good actor. When Jonah went back into the house, he saw that Mom had already written 9-3, Adoption Conference in October 28th square on the kitchen calendar. Quickly, he grabbed a pen and began inking over the words. He hadn't thought he'd have to worry about Mom and Dad's writing something that JB or E might see. Mom came around the corner just as he managed to obliterate the last E of conference. Jonah, what are you doing? She said, startled. I just started doodling, Jonah said. I guess it got a little out of hand. Mom looked completely bewildered. Even when you were a toddler, you didn't do things like that, she said. Mom, duh, Catherine said from across the kitchen, where she was pulling a Gatorade bottle from the refrigerator. Both Jonah and Mom turned to look at her. Somehow Catherine managed to roll her eyes and gulp down Gatorade at the same time. She lowered the bottle. Think about it. If Jonah's suddenly all confused and worried about his identity, the last thing he needs is to have you write adoption conference in a public place like that. This isn't a public place, Mom said. It's our kitchen. Yeah, but Rachel and Molly are in here all the time, and Chip, and all Jonah's other friends, and my other friends, and your friends, and Dad's friends. Catherine made it sound like thousands of people trooped through the kitchen every day. There's nothing wrong with the word adoption, Mom said defensively. Or being adopted. Yeah, but Jonah doesn't want it advertised, Catherine said. Show some sensitivity. Jeez. Mom turned her gaze from Catherine to Jonah and back again. I really thought Jonah was capable of speaking for himself, Mom said, suspicious creeping in her voice. Oh, he is, Catherine said sweetly. Jonah, didn't you have something you wanted to ask Mom and Dad about the conference? And Jonah shot Catherine a look that very clearly said, I'm going to kill you when all of this is over. To Mom, he said, yeah, I was just thinking, since Catherine seems to be having so many issues with not being adopted, that maybe she should go to the conference too, so she can find out what horrors she avoided by getting birth parents who were crazy enough to want to keep her. Oh, Jonah, that's not the way to look at this, Mom protested, at the same time that Catherine said, oh, could I go to the conference with you? That'd be great. Mom squinted at Jonah. Are you serious? She asked. It was really hard for Jonah to keep a straight face as he assured her. Yep, Catherine wants to go to the conference, and I want her to go too. Could I please? Catherine begged. Mom frowned. Some days I can't figure out the two of you at all, she said. Behind Mom's back, Catherine jerked her head at Jonah as if to say, your turn, close the deal. So can she come to the conference with us? Jonah asked, trying to keep his eyes wide and his expression innocent. I suppose, Mom said, though I really don't understand why either of you want this. Catherine threw her arms around Mom's shoulders. Thanks, Mom, she said. Just think, next year I'll be a teenager too, and then we'll really confuse you. All right. That was the end of chapter 24. All right, so chapter 25 tomorrow. See you later.